Well, it's an incredibly emotional situation for those watching what's happening in Idlib from afar and for those on the ground in the line of fire as well. For more on the situation on the ground, let's speak to David Swanson from the UN Office for the Coordination of Humanitarian Affairs for the Syria crisis in Gaziantep, Turkey. David, thank you for joining us. We mentioned that the UN says more than 140,000 Syrians have been displaced in the last 3 days alone. Where are they fleeing to? Where can they head to?
Well, the vast majority of these people are fleeing northward, as your program was saying. Most of the communities and towns along the M5 highway have since emptied, and we are now seeing a continuous barrage of aerial strikes and bombings in the area of the M4 highway. As those bombings continue, we now see those communities now emptying out and moving northward.
David, the language being used to describe what's happening on the ground is incredibly dramatic. This is being called one of the worst humanitarian crises of this 9-year war. Why? Why is the situation so dire?
Well, tragically, the number of people being displaced and the number of people on the move continues to rise, not by the day, but by the minute. As you pointed out, since December 1st, tragically, we've had more than 800,000 people displaced from their homes, and that's more than 140,000 in just a 3-day period. What's important for your viewers to understand is this compounds an already dire humanitarian situation on the ground inside Idlib, the last opposition-held area. Between the end of April and the end of August, we had more than 400,000 people displaced at that time, many of them multiple times, the vast majority of them women and children. So obviously this is compounding a crisis that was already there inside Syria, inside Idlib. There are more than 3 million civilians at risk now in Idlib and the surrounding areas, and we must do everything as part of the international community to bring an end to this violence.
What about the people who have been unable to flee? You said they're also facing a dire situation. What are the conditions for people who are stuck in Idlib?
I think the biggest problem people face on a daily basis is not knowing where to go. Protection is our #1 concern right now. And as people flee northward or wake up in the morning, they have to ask themselves which way is actually safe for them. So as people move northward, we now have people increasingly moving into a smaller area of land, which is now incredibly densely populating, putting them at even greater risk of being attacked by artillery shelling and everything. So the situation is just going from bad to worse, and it is now spiraling out of control.
All right, David Swanson from the UN Office for the Coordination of Humanitarian Affairs. Thank you so much for joining us here on DW.